Hey guys, I'm back here, finally doing the Creepshow Season 4 review that I'd planned on doing, or I thought I did a couple weeks ago, and then found out that I hadn't hit record, but I can see right here that the clock is ticking, therefore, it is recording. So, Creepshow Season 4, which is streaming on Shudder. So, if you've seen the previous 3 seasons, there's a fourth season now. They also have like a Christmas special on there. I think they might have had a Halloween special too. I seen the Christmas one. I like that a lot. So I watched this a couple weeks ago. Got through all the episodes, and now I'm going to talk about each one and then give a full ranking of what I liked best about the season. So obviously going to try to remember this because this was a couple weeks ago after I watched it. So some of these I'm like, what happened again? And I'm also looking at my notes, and you can see these notes. If you can read this handwriting, you're a very talented person. I have very bad handwriting, like a doctor's. So, anyway, the first one was called Cassandra. And this one, basically, this other woman comes to this woman's house like she's running from a monster. And so she talks her into letting her in and all that. And as we gradually find out, it's very much dealing with trauma. And so this was this girl's monster, and the girl in the house, woman in the house, has her own kind of monster that she keeps hidden. So it's kind of like sort of very much dealing with trauma and all that. So it was interesting, and like she's talking to this monster, and this monster is basically there to kill her, and it's letting her know. The saddest thing was this nice pizza guy who delivers this pizza, and he just like, there's this great conversation where she's trying to get him to go out of there, but he's just like, I have to live this pizza. He was really entertaining and funny. And then he got killed. So, spoilers for anything, by the way. And it was just like, oh. But it's a horror show, so, expect it. So that one was solid. It's more like a monster dealing with trauma. But he was kind of like a big rat. It's interesting. Then there's Smile. That was about a photographer, and he's getting this award for being a photographer, but he keeps like, getting these pictures sent to him. This person takes a picture from out, or he's at the restaurant and all that, and then he keeps like getting these images of like someone taking a picture from this side. And then he starts having all these kind of flashes and stuff in his memory, and he flashes back to he was taking some picture of this person who was trying to get through some water and all that, and basically like during a war zone type situation, and he ends up like, he could have helped these people from drowning. This person's trying to help their kid from drowning, and he just takes a picture instead. So I think it's like, so he's haunted by this image of this person. So he keeps having these flashes. I like it until the end, because at the end, and like I said, full spoilers on these episodes, at the end, it's basically he like starts strangling this thing in the pool, and then I'm like, yep, he just killed his kid, didn't he? And yep, that's where that could hit. So he sees this monstrous creature, this zombie of this person or this ghost, and he strangles him in the pool, and then realizes, oh, I've killed my kid. So, seen it, been there, done that before. So, okay. Let's see, the hat. This one wasn't bad. It was basically like this writer is stressed about not getting success, and he finds this hat from this well-known horror author like Stephen King or something like that. And so he starts like writing it, and then it starts like obsessively writing excellent stories and all that. And then it turns out that this thing is kind of like leeching off him or whatever. It's kind of like in the hat is this little thing that basically like suctions on his head, and he's having problems with his wife who's trying to spend time with him and be romantic and all that, but he's like, no, I have to finish the and then he actually meets the actual guy who used to own the hat, and he's like, give me the hat back, it's mine, and he's all decrepit and stuff, and then towards the end or whatever, he finally is able to get the hat off and all that, and then he attacks the agent who forced him to wear the hat. And then he finds out that his wife, who was an architect, I believe, has a hat of her own that's, going her obsessed. So it kind of backfires on him. So that was interesting. Let's see. What the hell is this one? What the hell does this say? Let me say it anyway. I have no idea what this episode says. That's not the grandma's one, is it? Or is it fun? Oh, maybe it is. No. Grown people? Hold on, guys. Let me... Sorry to stop real quick. I can't read my handwriting, so I'm going to... real quick. Going to... look this up real quick. Because I'm trying to remember what the hell the episode's name was. Okay, season 4... Hang tight, guys. I'm trying to remember what this episode was. Okay, episode guide. Season 4. Here we go. Okay, it's 20 minutes. Oh, it's 20 minutes. So Cassandra was the name of that episode, not just Cassandra. Oh, grieving process. That's what it was. Oh, that's what I put. Oh, this was the guy, basically like his wife and him, or she gets a big promotion, and then she has kind of a sister who's kind of a, doesn't get along well with her husband, and her and her sister have a kind of a strange relationship, and but she gets attacked one night, and they play it up very traumatic, like maybe she was assaulted or raped or something like that, but it's obviously not what you're thinking it is. And then she gradually, starts being really grumpy and not eating and getting sick and all that stuff, and it turns out that she was basically bitten by this demon thing, or I don't know if she's supposed to be a vampire or werewolf or a zombie or whatever it is, but basically, so then the husband starts killing people to feed her. It's been a story that's been done before, so not bad, but and of course he ends up, the sister kills, and then he tries to take this little girl home, and it turns out that she was the one that bit her in the first place. So then he's got 2 people to feed now. So it's decent, but I've seen that kind of thing before. Hellraiser, kill people to make this feed this thing. So somebody watched Hellraiser. Different circumstances and character, but okay. What's this one? Party Dead. What the hell did I? Man, my handwriting is terrible, guys. I am sorry. I got it right here though. Green process. Oh, parent death trap. And your grandmother's. Oh yes. This one was basically this rich kid. Basically, he has awful parents who are just rich and, basically just browbeat him all the time. And to the point that he's supposed to take this girl to prom, and then she doesn't show up, and they just call him a loser, and he snaps. I'm not happy that he killed the cat though, because it ticks me out. I'm a cat person, so I know it's not real. He's not really killing a cat, but it's just I don't like seeing cats get killed. Leave the animals out of this shit, man. Don't kill animals or babies. Not cool. Adults, that's fine. In a horror movie, sure, go ahead. But the only time I accept kids getting killed is if it's a monstrous creature, an alien or something like that. Xenomorph is not going to think twice about eating a baby. It's a xenomorph. Most of the time, stay away from babies. But anyway, so basically he ends up snapping and killing his parents and all that. But then his ghosts are there. Their ghosts are there, and they just keep trying to razz him. And he ends up several years later finds the girl that he was supposed to take to prom, and they end up hooking up. And it turns out that she was just trying to get the money, and she had killed her parents, and so they're both ghosts. And it was actually kind of funny. It was more of a horror comedy, I'd say. And then she ends up getting killed too, and then there's a whole thing that she didn't really want to be with this loser and all this stuff, and he ends up going away. But it's decent, the decent CGI effects for the things. To grandmother's house we go. I recognize the actress in this. I forget her name, but she was in Final Destination 2. If you remember the girl that was in the car and the airbag comes in and smashes her basically. She also played a teacher, Norman Bates' teacher in season 1 that I think his first kill in that season. So it's a Canadian actress, but I've seen her. So she plays kind of the wicked stepmother kind of thing. She marries an old guy, he dies, and then she's kind of the stepmother of this girl or whatever. But they go to see the grandmother who's, ill and all that. And on the way there, they get attacked by a wolf. You've probably heard this story before. Little Red Riding Hood. So, unfortunately predictable as it was, at some point, our stepdaughter gets grabbed by the wolf. So, if you guessed at the ending, guys, could you guess what the ending was? She gets to grandmother's house and then turns into a werewolf and then eats the stepmother. Could you see that twist coming, guys? It's like someone watched that. What was that movie that it was Amanda Seyfried? It was a Little Red Riding Hood movie or whatever. That was pretty much the entire fucking plot of that movie. That she's basically a wolf. I mean, it's like, come on, Creepshow. You're fucking Creepshow. You have comics of Creepshow. Was this really one? I don't know how they choose these stories. Are these actually from the comics? Or is this just stuff that these people are writing? Because it just feels like, I understand being influenced by things, but that was just kind of like, it was good until that. And I was like, it wasn't bad until that. And I was like, okay. Interesting. Let's see. Meet the Blaskis. This one was basically this neighbor. These two neighbors move in. They're vampires. Eccentric vampires, and they have a daughter, and then she falls for this son of this guy who's been a vampire hunter. His whole family's been vampire hunters. But they kind of turned around a little bit, so it's kind of like, the hunter's kind of an asshole. And his son ends up getting, their daughter ends up, biting him, the dad, and then she ends up saving him because he's bleeding and takes him to the hospital, but she burns in the sun or whatever. So it ends basically with, them opening the coffin and the dad is there, now turned into a vampire, and then they basically, his son just, kills him as a true hunter would, while the other vampires laugh in the background. So the dad kind of got what he was coming. It wasn't bad. Pretty entertaining. Decent creature effects. All right, then there's Cheat Code. This had, that actor, he was singing tons of things. He just played the dad in the Totally Killer, the grown-up dad. He was in Dead Man on Campus. He was in Freddy vs. Jason as the cop. I forget the actor's name. He's a Canadian actor, too. But he's been in a lot of stuff. But he's playing this, and he's playing this game with his son. And his son's really into video games, so he pulls out this old 80s game that, has never been beaten. You can't beat it. But basically, it's you're going through everyday life, and you're trying to avoid getting killed by different things. So, this thing fell on me and killed me. So, but, someone unleashes a cheat code, so to speak, as with games. And his one friend does the cheat code, and then his friend ends up in the game as a new character that keeps getting killed, and that character actually dies in the game. He dies in, kind of Nightmare on Elm Street thing. You die in the game, you die. And so him and his son both end up in the game and fight the final boss, basically. I found the CGI stuff that they did with it, I thought was pretty clever. I enjoyed that for what they did with it. It was pretty fun. It was, more comical, but I liked what they did with it, with the video game thing. So, it was interesting. Let's see. Something Borrowed, Something Blue. This had Tom Atkins in it. Woo! And he's an estranged father from his daughter who brings her fiance to see him because he wanted to see her. And basically he ends up recruiting the fiance to get someone to feed this creature that he has to feed every 15 years or something like that. And so basically, it seems like they're in the cahoots together and all that, but then it turns out that they had a monster too, and they end up feeding Tom Atkins to that monster at the end. But then they realize after he threw his drunken cousin towards the thing, his drunken cousin comes back out, and it's like, oh wait, that thing hasn't been fed, and then it leaps out to grab them. It was silly, the CGI on that was kind of silly, but hey, points for having Tom Atkins, Mr. Season of the Witch, Night of the Creeps, many other films. Can't go wrong with Tom Atkins. So it's cool they got Tom Atkins. Doodles. Doodles is about this artist, she's trying to get hired at a magazine, and this one girl kind of steals her thunder and all that, and then she basically draws some shit that happens, and then this girl dies from her doodles. So the doodles essentially come to life and kill the person in real life, and so she kind of becomes more crazy, and anytime someone fucks with her or pisses her off, she just doodles something bad happening to them, and that happens. Unfortunately, it backfires, and she gets killed in the end too. So this wasn't bad. It feels like something that's been done before too, but I mean, it was interesting that they did with doodles instead of like I've seen the thing where someone writes a story and then it comes to life. Was that the John Carpenter one in The Mouth of Madness? I think it's kind of similar vein there, although done much better, obviously. Let's see what else. Two more. George Romero 3D. This one was interesting because they had like a younger version of George Romero, like sort of cartoony, like he's drawn. Interesting CGI. But basically, like this mom and her son own this bookstore, and this landlord comes in, and they don't have any online presence. They're just selling books, like a bookstore would. But like he's like, I need the rent, but you're not making the money. I'm gonna shut this place down. So evil landlord. And so then the comic book, they find some George Romero comic books, creepshow things, or comic book that he had actually written, and they'd be worth a lot of money. But unfortunately, like one of the zombies comes out of the comic book, and but they can't see it though. So if he wears these 3D glasses, then they can see the zombie coming at them. So he has a girl that's works there too, and he was originally supposed to fire her, but then like there's this awkward thing, and he wants to date her. But then the zombie ends up bringing more zombies and bites another person that's in the thing, and he turns into a zombie, and then there's more zombies that come out of the comic. So it's a big thing. They're trying to stop it, and George Romero's trying to give them ideas and stuff like that. And then the mom unfortunately gets pulled off screen, and so then the landlord comes in at the end, and they do stop the zombies from the thing. But it's just like, okay, let me guess, the landlord's gonna come in, and then the mom's gonna be a zombie and bite him. And predictable, yes. The rest of the episode was fine, but I saw that one coming a mile away. I'm like, yeah, the landlord's gonna get bit by a zombie. Either he was gonna get bit by a zombie or the mom's gonna turn a zombie, and that's exactly what happened. So it's like, it's kind of one of those things, like, it's frustrating, like, especially for an ending of an episode, when you already see it fucking coming. It's just like, oh my god, this is so predictable. Granted, I mean, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, I'm the greatest writer ever, because, let's face it, I wrote a play once with, called Jenny, that I was an imaginary friend that was a large otter. Yes, and killer otter. And I had a thing, sort of, that I fully admit I took as sort of an homage to Raising King, where, like, I pop up at the end over and kill, and the whole thing was that we were playing out that it was just all in Jenny's head, and that there was no imaginary friend, he wasn't real, and then it turns out he was real, and I just remember my dad watching it, my dad's like, oh, I knew it, so like, oh, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm not guilty of some predictability, but there's just certain things, like, I've seen it before, so it's kind of like, okay, this is exactly, I've seen this type of thing in movies before, this is exactly what's going to happen. So not bad, though. I did enjoy the stuff with George Romero. And the final episode of the season, which I can't read what I wrote here, so. Oh, this is the one with the teeth, right? Oh, baby teeth, yeah. That one was weird, too, because it starts off with this girl getting, like, her wisdom teeth pulled with some really nasty body horror stuff there. And basically her mom has to save all her teeth or whatever, and like in this weird box, but it's basically to keep the tooth fairy away, I guess. But like her friend ends up being there, and then I forget what they do, but somehow basically the teeth get out, and then the tooth fairy comes to life and basically like eats them and shit. But then becomes a baby at the end. It's kind of weird. It was a very strange one. I like the idea of a scary tooth fairy. That's, there was that one movie, what was it called? Darkness Falls or something. I think that was kind of like sort of the plot was kind of this evil tooth fairy kind of thing. But yeah, but it was an interesting idea. But it felt very short though. Like I didn't feel like I had enough time to really flesh it out. So cool. So those are the episodes that I watched. And now I'm going to rank them in terms of likability. So we'll go 12 up to 1. So Doodles, I got 12. Not bad. I mean, like I said, nothing really awful. That's one thing I was saying. Like, there was a lot of stuff in season 3 that I just really didn't like. So I thought this was an improvement. Maybe not necessarily in terms of budget, but in terms of like a little bit better. Not perfect, but a little bit better. So Doodles would be my number 12. Like I said, nothing terrible, but it feels like some kind of thing I've seen done. Baby Teeth would be number 11. Just too weird and not well explaining how the monster came about. 10 would be Smile. I've seen a much better thing called Smile, a movie with Kevin Bacon's daughter. Much better. Don't think they need to make a sequel, but they're going to because it made money. Should have left it alone. But 20 minutes with Cassandra was decent comment on trauma and things like that, but it was all right. And then to Grandma's house, good until the end when it's predictable, you know. Grieving process, not bad, but something I've seen before. The hat, decent. Similar thing of like very Monkey's Paw type thing of this thing that's helping me, but now is actually hurting me. Parent Death Trap at least had some decent comic bits. The parents were very good. Let's see then. The Belaski's another more comical one, but it's a decent vampire. Nice, it's flip around. Something Burrows on Me Blue, decent monster. Tom Atkins, points for that. George Romero 3D up until the ending with the mom, which was predictable. Pretty good overall, other than that. And then Cheat Code. I really like the Cheat Code episode. I think that was my favorite episode of the season. So that's my basic rankings of that, guys. So if you get a chance, guys, check out Creepshow Season 4 if you like the other seasons. I do think it's an improvement on Season 3. But there's still some problems, CGI, some of it's okay. Some of it's, you can tell they didn't have much of a budget. Not a lot of name actors. There's actors who sing in things besides Tom Atkins, of course, but but no big time actors or anything like that. And some of the stories, like I said, have predictable endings. That's my biggest complaint. I think it's either stuff I feel like I've seen 100 times in horror, or stuff that I can predict the ending by that, and then I'm completely right. So it's I don't know. It's sometimes it's you don't want to have it be too predictable. Sometimes the twist is really good too, and then sometimes the twist ruins it. So it's oh, let's subvert expectations. So anyway, I'm gonna stop babbling on. But yeah, so tomorrow we'll be back with some Spider-Man stuff. Anna will join me for that, and I might do another reenactment too. I'm thinking about it. Thinking about doing the Steve Martin thing in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when he's when they have their argument and all that. Make it more interesting for the listener. So I thought that'd be kind of fun for a reenactment. Me and Anna are still gonna do the Breakfast Club one soon too. So she has to get a red wig though. Cool guys. Hope you enjoyed this Creepshow review that I actually recorded this time. So like and subscribe, guys, and keep on watching. Have a good night.